With the calm seas ahead, you guys that like to catch tunas and wahoos at the floaters, get ready. And if you don't want to go that far, the ling and kingfish are just off of the beach. Also, if you like to catch crappies, I hear the crappie bite is on fire. So listen up for the scoop because it's time for the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Hey, all you cool anglers. Welcome back to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. We're your hosts, Bree Gabrielle and Captain Rick Murphy. We hope everyone had a fantastic weekend celebrating all kinds of mamas everywhere. But we're moving into a themed week of wading, right, Rick?
You're absolutely right, Bree. And you know, Texas is probably the most popular state when it comes to guys that love to wade. I know that most waders are all sold in Texas, and the key is I can't wait to hear some of the tips that our captains have for us in regards to wading.
I'm in the same boat. Ha! Well, let's not keep our workbench wonder over there waiting any longer. Dave Farrell, let the wading puns begin.
A workbench wonder.
Yeah, do you like that? Okay.
Yeah, that was awesome. But yeah, we're going to talk about wading. I got really good at it because I didn't have a boat for a long time. So I did a lot of it. And I really enjoy it, so I hope you will too.
Awesome. All right, well, let's make our first cast into the Alvey Reels Middle Coast region, where Bink Grimes has prepared a detailed and honest report for those of us waiting to get that perfect hookup. Talk to us, Bink.
Hey, wading is one of my favorite things to do. I wrote a book in 2004 called Wade Fish Texas. Still in print today. It's still, everything applies to what it did 20 years ago. This time of year, we're tossing sheep pups. As the sun creeps over the horizon in the far reaches of West Bay. That incoming tide brings new recruits of shad, mullet, and shrimp through Pascaval, and those trout are just waiting there to gobble up a plug. This time of year when the wind blows, I mean, wading is the thing to do. You get behind the leeward shoreline where all the water seems to really green up. That sustaining wind most of the time is south-southeast. Those shorelines, they hold green water when the rest of the bay is just chocolate milk. My absolute favorite thing to do is wade in the surf in the Gulf of Mexico. Our beach, it gets loaded up with trout this time of year. We just got to have a light south wind or north wind to bring that green water to the beach. Love throwing topwaters like sheep pups and she dogs anytime we can against the beach. It's just, you know, wading is what we do here in Texas, and I mean, it's just, I'll be out there doing it in the morning. We've had a lot of bright moon this week, big moons this week. It's a forward to minor bite at sunrise and a better bite around midday. And then again, another minor bite around sunset. A lot of that water has been pumped back into the bay this week with southeast winds. It's pushing our trout to the shorelines. It's sending us to a summer fishing pattern. This time of year, if you're not fishing wrasse and mullet on the shorelines, you're probably wasting your time. We like to wade right behind those rafts. I like to get on the shoreline in the morning, like what I'm going to do in the morning, find a slick, get behind it, and wade right through that slick. Grass beds, sand pockets with she dogs, she pups. We've been doing exceptionally well with those really noisy topwaters, especially with the way the wind's been blowing. Wading mid-bay reefs in San Antonio Bay has been good, much like East Matagorda Bay has paid off. A lot of bass assassins, mirror lure, little johns are really doing well. Drifters are catching limits over the same reefs on live shrimp under a mid-coast popping cork. We'll slide on over to Freeport. Bass Rock, Chocolate Bay has been good. Protected reefs on live shrimp. Most of those fish have been in stained water, and so that you pop that noisy cork and they're finding that shrimp. The Freeport Jetty is also holding trout as well on mullet and shrimp. And drifting East Bay has just been, kind of so-so lately because we've been getting those 20, 25 knot winds. Water's been muddy. But when it streaks up, I'm telling you, those fish are there. I went a 10-day stretch about 2 weeks ago where we had at least one fish over 6 pounds, 10 trips in a row. That's pretty big trout. Those big trout are eating, they still have to eat that chocolate milk. So you get you a good cork, you really slam on it, make some noise, those trout will find it. Rockport, Rhett Price at Trailer Island and Mud Island are holding trout. on the sand and grass. He's using Texas custom lures like Mirror Fat Boys, working well in that pistachio color. Photo there is Reese Cummings. Caught that 28-inch trout on a bass assassin drifting East Matagorda Bay. He's about 10 years old, and man, he fishes all the time, and that is just a beautiful trout.
All right,
We'll go to
tell us-
redfish. Most of the fish are about knee-deep water. Points and guts drop off on the edges of the reef. Those wading with live shrimp on a popper cork or tossed at the edges of the reefs, picking up reds and drum. Port O'Connor, redfish is good in the back lakes on Bass Assassin Sea Shad on the copperhead color. And then at Matagorda, Michael Ross said he's saved a lot of windy days by working Maverick Bow, Hidden Bow, Green Island, Pilot Sloughs with live shrimp when it's gusting to 25 knots. Go offshore, the wind kicked back up, and but you know Freeport, Mike Siegel, he's catching fish in about 25 foot of water, bull redfish, black tips, and big gap top. Then in Matagorda, that nighttime swordfish action has been pretty good. They're in 75 to 80 miles out at about 300 foot of water at night. It's been really good. Our spring is off. It's just spring. The wind's going to blow. You just got to keep grinding and wait for the next day when the wind's not blowing so hard, and you got to get them fast.
All right, thank you so much, Bink. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Middle Coast hotspots. Bink says that we want to go trout are good while wading sand and grass in Port O'Connor near the jetties on Bass Assassins and Sheep Pups. The redfish are good in Matagorda and around Maverick Bayou and the Cutoff Flats.
All right, the lower fresh region is in the spotlight, and Matt Reed is waiting in the wings, so let's see what we're catching while keeping cool on Lake Travis, Marble Falls, Buchanan, Amistad, Choke Canyon, Somerville, Fayette County, and Falcon.
Yeah, let's see how much of this I can get done.
Okay.
All right, we're going to start this off with wading. Freshwater wading's not as big a deal as saltwater because you have limited access. A great place to go is to the state parks on any of your area lakes or rivers. You get water access there. You need to find an area that's got cover, timber, rocks, some type of shallow cover. Pick you a crankbait or a little spinnerbait up and get out there and catch you some largemouth and white bass. They're usually accessible to the shoreline. That's the best advice I've got for wading in the fresh water. Going to skip on over and start on the largemouth bass. Lake Travis is fishing well for numbers. There's a few of the bigger fish being caught early in the mornings. They're moving up shallow to feed, and you can catch them on a walking type topwater or a popper. Later in the day, a shaky head or a Texas rig worm will get you quite a few bites. Lake Marble Falls is fishing well. I've been catching most of them on a Texas rig, soft plastic, around laydowns off the ledges in 6 to 10 foot of water. Carolina rig with a creature bait on it has also caught a lot of fish. The shady areas have been the biggest key. Under the bridges or under the docks around rocks, that's been the best type of cover in the shade. Lake Buchanan is fishing decent. If you catch a shad spawn early in the morning, it can be all over the lake on the shallow rocks or wood or grass, any type of cover. You can load up in a hurry if they want a shad imitation. Later on, flip the trees and you catch some nice largemouth out on around those trees. There's also a bite out on the deeper rock piles using football jigs and deep cranks. Like Amistad, the fishing has been excellent. Lots of numbers are still dropping the lake. The grass is shallow. Early in the morning, topwater swim baits and rattle traps have been really good in that 1 to 5 foot. Later, it seems like most of the fish are moving to the outside edge of the grass, attacking swim baits and Carolina rigs. Also, some fish out in that deep water, 18 to 25 foot, being caught on drop shots and football jigs. Mike Bates sent me a report from Choke Canyon Lake. The early morning topwater bite is excellent. It doesn't matter if it's a walking type bait or a popper. You can get a lot of bites around the grass. A little later on, the swim baits and small crankbaits are working well as long as you've got some wind or clouds. If you don't have that, you're going to have to pick up a Texas rig soft plastic. It's been working all day, no matter if you have what type of weather you have. The outside grass line has been the key, the outside of the hydrilla. Numbers have been great, mostly in the 2 to 3 pound range with an occasional big one mixed in. Like Somerville, the bass have been biting fair midday because of the big moon this week. Shad spawn still happening a little bit, so the lipless crankbaits, small spinnerbaits have caught those fish early, early shallow around the shad spawn. Later in the day, get you green pumpkin or dark plastic. Fish it on a shaky head or a light Texas rig. And that way you can catch some fish later on in the day. Fayette County, it's been fishing fair. The full moon has slowed it down a little bit. There's still some good solid fish along the reeds early in the morning on traps, swim jigs, and frogs. Mid-morning and later on, move off the Lane Lake points in that 15 to 25 foot with a Carolina rig. Got a bass picture there of one of Brian Cotter's customers named Owen. Caught a nice fish at Lake Travis on one of their guide trips.
Nice. All right, what else you got for us, bub?
I got a crappie on Lake Somerville, biting really well. They're good around the brush piles at 10 to 15 foot on minnows and jigs. Black chartreuse or shad-colored jigs have been best. The Falcon Lake crappie have just been really on fire. I can catch the limit of them just about at will. 8-ounce jig in the brush piles, about 18 to 20 foot. And lemons, the big ones, are really common. Got a picture there of Ken and his son Kerry from the trip this week with just about an hour worth of crappie to get you a bunch of fillets to take to the house.
Well, you got it done. Good job, my friend. We'll talk to you next week. So it's time for the lower fresh hot spots. He says that we're going to actually want to go crappie fishing in Lake Somerville, and Falcon Lake is on fire. Get an 8-ounce jig and find some brush piles and 10 to 20 feet of water, and you have the opportunity to fill your live well with all those crappies you're gonna catch, Bree.
Sounds good to me. All right, we're heading on into the Fish Bites Upper Coast region next, but first, Dave Farrell is giving us some tips over at the CCA Workbench for rigs and techniques.
Yep, we're gonna be talking about how to get your feet wet and get out there and get you a big trout or a redfish standing amongst them.
Ooh,
That's what I
sounds
like
good to
doing.
me. Standing amongst them.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Casa Vieja Lodge, 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Garmin, join the club. Sportsman's Adventures, fishing for adventure. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats, eat, sleep, fish.
Reliability. Yamaha is known for it. And it's something boaters value, because these days, few things are built to last. When we find something that is, we hold on to friendships, traditions, outboards. Because every second on the water is sacred. If you count on having this time, you need an outboard you can count on to power it. That's why boaters choose Yamaha for the long run, for life. Because reliability starts here.
Remember the glory days of gasoline? It's just not made the same anymore. Kick your gas into gear with StarTron. Pump up the performance in all of your engines. Cure the problems of ethanol with the power of enzymes. And maximize your mileage every time you drive. Kickstart your engines with StarTron.
For the Bay and beyond. Team up with the best and rule the Bay in a Skeeter. Proven with 19 consecutive NMMA Consumer Satisfaction Awards. And right now, through June 20th, you can save with summer sizzling rebates of up to $2,500. Versatility, control, performance, and design. Visit your local Skeeter dealer or online at SkeeterBoats.com. Skeeter, it's more than a boat, it's a lifestyle.
Have you ever felt your heart pounding while feeling the power of a tarpon in the Florida Keys? Or experienced the changing colors of a mahi as you bring it on board? Whether it's in the Bahamas, the Florida Keys, Guatemala, or the Florida Everglades, Murphy's Law Sports Fishing has the ability to guide you to the fish of a lifetime. To book your trip today, call 305-246-0673 or go to murphyslawsportfishing.com.
Well, Dave, it's time for the rigs and techniques here at our workbench.
Yes, sir.
And so what are we going to talk about?
Well,
Wading,
talk
obviously.
about wading. You know, it's a great way to fish, you know, because you're out there communing with nature, you know, you're one with the environment and all that stuff. I love doing it. I get up early in the morning and, you know, I'll be honest with you, though, when I was a younger man, there's a lot of places that I would go wading that I won't go wading now because I'm older and I love myself a little bit more. So, because there's some danger involved in some of the places you go wading. You always want to make sure you bring a buddy. As much as it's nice to be out there by yourself in the solitude, if you're in a place where there's some sharks or there's some stingrays or something like that, it's always good to have somebody around watching your back.
So you can drag your dead body out of the water.
Yeah, especially in the summertime, the bull sharks get in the bays and start running up down the beach, chasing all that same mullet that you're looking for,
yes.
the same bait fish that you're looking for, and those are the places where you want to start. And as soon as you get to the edge of the bay, start looking around. If you see some birds standing along the shoreline, that's probably a good place to start. If you see a lot of mullet working on top of the water or fish wakes moving somewhere, it's probably a great place to start. And put on a pair of good shoes, waders if it's cold. If it's below 70, I really hate the cold. So if it's below 77 degrees, I'm putting waders on. Over that, I'll roll
77-degree water.
Correct.
I got
correct. 77-degree water. I'll raw dog after that and put on, just wear a pair of shoes and a pair of shorts.
So what are you going to use when you get in the water?
Well, use bait casters in Texas for sure. That's what most people use. But at the same time, you got to be, if you're not used to casting a bait caster, a lot of the times what you're wanting to do when you're wading is you're wanting to use the lightest stuff that you can get away with, especially if you're fishing in really shallow water, because from the time it hits the surface to the time it gets to the bottom, that's your little strike zone. And the slower it takes to get to the bottom, the longer it's in that strike zone and the more likely the fish is to eat it, especially when it first hits. So, try to get away with using something especially if it's not a topwater plug or some sort of plug. If it's a soft plastic, you want to try to use something that is an 1/8 to maybe a 16th, even a 16th ounce, if you can get away with it. On a windy day, it's going to be hard to cast those things a long way.
Right.
So you might have to go to a 1/4 ounce. Most guys just use a 1/4 ounce all the time, but they're probably missing out on a few bites.
Right.
Because if you can lighten up any and let that thing flutter down and take its time to get down there, you're going to be better off.
As Bink said, one of the things he loves is certainly throwing top waters for trout.
I love it too. It's really the only reason I go fishing anymore is to watch a fish eat. I love to watch them pop and thing. And a good topwater plug can't be beat. Trout, luckily, trout love to eat topwater plugs, and especially if they're targeting mullet and pilchards or little like white baits. Whatever kind of little white baits you have in the surf. Anything that looks like that's what they're going to key on. What a lot of people make a mistake is working them too fast. If you're working them real fast and you're not getting bites, slow down. Try to slow down a little bit, let it sit, pop it, let it sit, pop it. Sometimes as soon as you start to move it again after you stop it, that's when they'll eat it. And if it's moving, sometimes they won't. Now, if you're using a Zara Spook like that one, a great topwater plug, it moves all the time. You really don't want to, you move it slow back and forth, bang, 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 bang. Just work it as slow as you can, and usually they'll pile on it. Sometimes they like it a little faster, but usually slowing down is the key to getting a good bite.
And truthfully, redfish and trout, they don't necessarily need it to be fast.
No.
They like just a cadence.
Right, and a lot of time you're moving it fast and strong because of the water clarity. A faster bait will sometimes work better in muddy water because they can hear it because you're making a lot of splashing as you're moving it. If you're going real slow, they might not see it as good. I like a lot of the weedless swim baits like these bass saltwater assassins because you can throw them over grass and stuff and you don't have to worry about getting them in the grass and whatnot. You throw them in real shallow water, which is where the big trout like to live sometimes.
Man, I feel like we were cheated here. We didn't have enough time.
We could have some more stuff, yeah.
I agree. Unfortunately, we got to go to another region because I really was digging this.
I was too. That was a good chat, fellas.
Yes.
All right, the Fish Bites Upper Coast region is very accustomed to the wade life, so let's get expert Captain Carl Weston to weigh in on the subject. Carl?
Hello, guys. Yeah, let's get our feet wet today. Talk about some wade fishing. Wade fishing is a unique style of fishing here in Texas. I believe we probably have more anglers that wade fish here than any other state in the Gulf. Now, there are many advantages to wade fishing. And one of the biggest attributes would be to me is you can cover so much water, and you can access this for little or no cost. Go in stealth mode too, with just your body moving through the water. It gives you that ability to move slow and steady and sneak up on some really big fish. This is something you can't always do in a noisy old boat. Now, more of the perks, the way of fishing, include access to small cuts. You can get back in these small cuts, backwater tidal ponds. Just remember, safety is the most valuable tool in your arsenal. And always try to be aware of your surroundings and your weather conditions. And we have a picture here today of Mr. Stain wading through his grocery store.
Man.
Santa.
All right, tell us about the trout fishing, Bubba.
Well, the trout bite in the upper coast is just awesome. It's been hot all year, and it's not slowing down. Even with these windy conditions, the fish are here and they're hungry. One of the best tactics this week has been to try to hide from the wind a little bit, guys. And when you're fishing along the banks close to the edge, you can kind of get your back up, get out of that wind a little bit. And also, in these windy conditions, you're going to want to start adding a little more weight to your rig in order to cast into these heavy winds. The tactics have remained the same for the past few weeks, and the fish are chasing bait all along these grassy shorelines and along the shell reefs in the middle of West and East Galveston Bay. We've been throwing bass assassin sea shads in a white or green, rigged on an 1/8 ounce jig head. And, the mirror lure, suspended twitch baits have been killing it as well. We've even tried fish bites. I tried some Bob's Your Uncle the other day or Counterpunch with that white knuckle hooked on a simple Carolina rig, and we were knocking trout down. So it's just been good. And here's a picture of someone I think we know. Is that Caleb? That's Caleb Hart.
Oh, yeah, there's old Caleb. Dang, he looking good.
Still doing things.
Still doing the things. All right, bub, let's go offshore.
All right, let's go offshore. Moving to my favorite spot. Now, while heading offshore this week, don't pass up on the opportunity to stop by the old channel markers and drop a bait in the water. The laying bite has been hot. It's heating up as this water temperature gets better. And ling love to hang around the surface structure. So almost anything floating in the Gulf is going to pose an opportunity for you to catch one of these fish. Now, if you find some visible bait hiding under, around some debris or grass patches, spend some time working these areas. And try a mixture of bait. Try some natural, try some artificial. Most of the time, you're going to get rewarded with a nice fish for the icebox. Ling, like we've talked about in the past, are very curious fish. And this makes them challenging and fun at the same time to catch. Tactic I like to use is to chum them close to the boat with some small chunks of cut bait. Then simply hide a hook in a small piece and toss it in with a handful of chum. This rig would include, say, 2 foot of 40 to 50 pound test. I like diamond fluorocarbon. I'll finish it off with a 6/0 Eagle Claw trocar hook. And this rig has always brought the groceries in for us, folks.
All right, what else you got for us? Go ahead.
We got a picture of William, I think, with a ling.
Yeah, looking good. All right, let's continue offshore. What else?
We're going to snapper, state water snapper. As we're looking forward to this federal season opening up on June 1st, we can still get our plenty of snapper in the box in state water. That's year-round. These fish are schooling real nice around the near shore structure, and they've been mixed in with some mangrove snapper as well. A great place to start search for these inshore spots is your local charts. Look for the old wrecks and notable bottom structures. They'll be marked along with the coordinates. These coordinates are easy transferred to your Garmin or your bottom machine. And then when you find these fish, use a simple seeker rig. I use a rig that's 2 foot of 80 pound diamond Malloy fluorocarbon. I tie a barrel swivel between the leader and the main line, and simply slide on a 6 to 8 ounce egg sticker. Just make sure it slides freely on the leader. Finish it off with your Eagle Claw hook. Tip it with squid, cigar minnows, fish bites, and you're off to the races. And I believe we have a quick pick of a red snapper that succumbed to fish bite.
Yeah, man. Thank you for
yeah.
all the great pictures, Carl. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the MirrOlure hotspots for the Upper Coast region. Inshore, trout casting topwater twitch baits over the oyster reefs and along the grassy shorelines, and then offshore catch state water snappers on the nearshore structure using a seeker rig tipped with squid, shrimp, or fish bites.
All right, the Startron Middle and Upper Fresh regions are next, and we're also talking with the Coast Guard Auxiliary about boating safety. But before we want to remind you to keep up with everything fishing in Texas. Visit our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow and tag us in your photos on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. See you back in 2 minutes.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Contender Boats, always in the game. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Alvy Reels, a better way to fish. And Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com.
An entirely new species of extreme predator is moving offshore. The Yamaha 5.6-liter V8 XTO offshore outboard. Extreme big block thrust and power in the industry's first direct injection 4-stroke. Quiet, efficient, powerful, and proven Yamaha reliability. More than an outboard, it's a fully integrated power system. The all-new Yamaha V8 XTO offshore.
Why is Casa Vieja Lodge on everyone's bucket list?
Left teaser. Left flat as well. 2 fish. They're everywhere. Right flat teaser as well. Left flat, right flat teaser.
Come to Casa Vieja Lodge and check it off your list.
Finding a shoreline is easy. Finding a sure thing is not. For over 20 years, anglers from Kitty Hawk to California and every shore in between have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to fish bites. So just stop with the fishing and get busy with the catching. Ask for Fish Bites or Fish Bites Fight Club lures or visit fishbites.com.
Today's Power Pole tip is about the Charge Marine Power Station. In the previous video, we showed you how to set up the Charge and let it know what type of batteries you're working with for your trolling motor and your engine battery. Today I want to dive into how to connect, control, and customize what your Charge is doing throughout the day. Let's say I know I'm going to go fish real hard in the current and use my trolling motor a lot. I can get into the Sea Monster app and tell the Charger to focus more of the engine priority on my trolling motor batteries as we're running around all day. But now let's switch it up. It's a nice weekend. I've got the wife and the kids. We're gonna go out to the island and hang out. I'm gonna move the priority over to the engine. And what I've done, I've tied my trolling motor batteries back to the engine battery so I have a real big source of power for all the speakers, the stereo, the large amps. And that way when we go to leave, I won't have too little of power to start the outboard. The Power Pole Charge, customize, control, connect. That's your tip of the week.
Well, joining me now is Jeff Barnes from the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary. And you know, we are talking boating safety. Is Boat Safety Week next week, so we're here to promote it. So, Jeff, you know, I know that we're responsible for our wake, and a lot of people don't recognize that and respect that. So what else can we talk about this week?
Well, the best thing you can do for being a safe boater is taking a boater safety course. And we offer those through the auxiliary. Also, Power Squadron puts them on. You can get them online too as well. But obviously, the in-person type of classes are really good to have. And being that safe boater, when you graduate from that class, you understand that, even though that it's not written in black and white that says that you're responsible for your boat wake. However, there are a lot of other rules and statutes and codes that say, hey, listen, whatever you're doing on your boat, whether it's a wake that comes, that's being coming out of your hull, or and you're passing by a smaller vessel, you just got to make sure that you're in tune with what's going on around you. Pull back on the throttle, get by those smaller vessels, kayaks, and things like that, and get back on plane. Because essentially, your wake is a extension of your boat, whether you hit someone or not.
So we got some stuff here. What do we got here this week?
So another thing that you can do to be safe on the water is personal locator beacons. These are various manufacturers of personal locator beacons, and one of the really cool ones are from the Garmin company, and you can actually text back and forth in the middle of anywhere, really in the world, and you can let people know, hey, listen, I'm still out fishing. Don't worry, even though I told you to be back at 5, I'm really going to be back at 9,
right.
So that they don't, get all worried about you being on the water. Also, a lot of guys that are on the boats by themselves especially, see these sitting on their console and they don't do anything. The best thing to do, especially when you're by yourself, and we see these videos online now all the time of boats going in circles and circles and circles and nobody's in them. Why? It's because they didn't have this on. It's really easy to do. You hook this up to your cutoff switch. You hook this up around your leg, on your life jacket, and if something happens, your engine shuts off. You're not left out in the dust. So always, 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 especially when you're by yourself, use these. Also, there's also wireless versions of these that you don't need a lanyard. All you need is like a little bracelet or a tag, and you're safe.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Barnes. That's very enlightening about all the things we need. And more importantly, Bree, we actually got to go to another region.
Yes, we do. All right, your StarTron Middle Fresh region, Matt Loescher, is keeping things real and giving us the most up-to-date lip-ripping stats on Sam Rayburn and Toledo Bend. Hello, Matt.
Hey, Bree. Yep, I got a good report this week. Fish are biting real good. I'm going to start out talking about the wading deal. As far as the wading in my region, it's just not something that people do a lot of in the Middle Fresh region. Our fish spend the majority of their time offshore in deeper water, so it just kind of makes them tough to access. You can certainly do it if you want, and if you do want to try to do that, I would definitely focus your efforts more in the springtime, around the spawning time, when the fish are going to be deep into that flooded cover, because then wading can actually be very advantageous. You can get to fish that people in boats can't get to, so it's a lot of times it's even a better way to fish. But as far as what the fish are doing right now, they are mostly out in the deeper water. And I'm going to start out talking about what the crappie are doing, because they're kind of the hot topic this week. They're biting real good, particularly on Toledo Bend. It's really hot right now. We've been doing really well on our guide trips. Numbers have been high and size has been good. The crappie are feeding heavily on shad right now, trying to fatten back up from all that spawning they've been doing. And so you want to keep yourself around a good concentration of those shad. Look for those shad on your sonar. Now, the best part about the crappie fishing right now is because they're feeding so much, they're very aggressive. So if you get around them, they should bite real well. In fact, I love to leave the minnows at home when I get a chance to, and just throw that panfish assassin jig this time of the year because they bite it so well. I like the monkey milk or the electric chicken colors best right now, and I'm rigging it on either a 16th or a 32nd ounce jig head most of the time. Just put it around them, either casting it or dropping straight down, and they'll jump all over it. They're hanging out in about 15 to 25 foot of water around stumps and bridge pilings, and most days they're suspended about 8 to 15 foot down. But sometimes when there's a little more current running, they get closer to the bottom. I've got a photo for you here of a good example of what we've been doing. Some of my favorite folks, Mr. Tom and Cheryl Dorman, with a table full of real nice crappie we caught this week.
Man, I'd say so. All right, bub, what else? You got some bass report for us?
I sure do. So the bass have been really chomping around the grass over at Sam Rayburn. I'm getting lots of good reports from over there. The frog bite seems to be the ticket, and who doesn't like that bite? So get out there and get some while the getting's good. And they're pretty aggressive right now as well, so you can really power fish, work that frog fast and aggressive. usually a white one or a black one. Black on the dark days, white on the brighter days. And don't forget to have a follow-up bait. The Bass Assassin Fat Job and Green Pumpkin is a great follow-up bait when you miss one on the frog. Then back over on Toledo Bend, the report hasn't changed much this week from last week. There's still a few hanging around the shallow cover, feeding on the spawning shad, especially in the mornings. But the frog bite isn't quite as good over here. For me lately, the pitching that Bass Assassin Skunk Ape has been the best deal, and Green Pumpkin on a Texas rig around that grass and wood up shallow. And then the other option is an offshore bite. More and more fish are starting to congregate on those offshore structure spots, about 10 to 15 foot deep on points and humps. Look for the shad and grind a crankbait around in that depth, and you should come up with some. Got another photo here for you of Tyler with a nice big-headed Toledo Bend bass. We caught up around some of that shallow grass. Real nice fish there. Kind of thin, but big-headed and fun to catch.
All right.
And then lastly, the brim are biting real good as well, so find them in 1 to 10 foot.
You done?
Yes, sir. That's it.
Man, I was getting all
He wants
cranked up
more,
about.
Matt.
I was getting all cranked up about the brim, and man, and all of a sudden it's gone. All right, bub. Thank you so much. We're gonna go and take a look at the middle fresh hot spots. The crappie are hot on the Toledo Bend and 15 to 25 feet on the jigs, and bass are biting frogs on Sam Rayburn and skunk apes on Toledo Bend. The brim are 1 to 10 feet biting crickets and worms. What do you think, Bree?
You don't want Matt to leave.
No, I didn't. He was on a roll.
He was. All right, let's get right into the nitty gritty on Lake Levon and Lake Fork with your guide, Johnny Geis. Talk to us, Johnny.
Thanks, Bray. Well, we don't do much, don't see many people around Lake Fork doing any wade fishing for bass and crappie, but I do follow another guy, old Captain Kerry Thorne. And man, he offers some great bank fishing, wade fishing trips on numerous creeks and rivers around that North Dallas area. Oh, Kerry, he's kind of a well-known multi-species guide around North Texas, and he offers a lot of different trips on different species. Pretty well diverse young man. Kerry knows all the best spots and safe parking areas, and that's real important around the Metroplex when you get close to some good creek fishing. Captain Kerry suggests everyone who comes fish on those creeks with him to wear soccer shoes, or some waders at least with some good cleats, because footing's very slippery on the banks, and the soccer cleats keep your feet from under your feet and keep you from sliding down the muddy banks. So Kerry's very experienced, versatile angler, and he guides many anglers each spring. They got some spectacular catches of white bass and crappie as those things migrate up those tributaries. A lot of places around Dallas. He also spends a great deal of time guiding on Lake Levon, just a reservoir northeast Dallas. So let's look what's going on at Levon at this time. The white bass bite on Levon is on fire. Kerry and his customers, they're limited out usually in a few hours each morning using 1 ounce slabs with a jig tied about 18 inches above that slab. That allows some double catches. Pretty often they catch a lot of 2 at a time on that. Then the report said that deep bite for Levon is only about 15 to 18 foot, and that's where they're at. Early in the morning, there are a lot of schools of sand bass up on the banks chasing the shad spawn. Birds give them away, and then you throw a white chartreuse tail swim bait, kind of like a Bass Assassin sea shad. It's the best on those shallow fish. Cast them up on the shoreline, reel them back in. When you see those birds lined up on the bank, you will catch some sandies feeding on the shad spawn. Another species that they fish a lot on Levon, he's doing real good in. I noticed he's got that garment on his boat now. They're holding at 4 to 22 foot, kind of scattered, but they're there. Black chartreuse jigs with a pink head. It's working real good for them right now. The standing timber seems to be the best cover for the big crappie, but they're still catching a lot of them on the brush pile. So it's not uncommon for Kerry and his customers to catch over 100 fish in a half day at this time, both of them being crappie and sand bass. So look up Kerry Thorne if you're interested in bank or wade fishing or by boat on the following fishing holes: Lake Levon, Lake Ray Hubbard, Lake Louisville, Rowlett Creek, or the East Fork Trinity River. All those are Metroplex areas. Kerry shared a picture with us here. I've got a picture of a recent bank and wading trip. And man, these two guys got a double limit of pretty good sized sand bass they caught wading. So
nice. All right.
Moving on over to my favorite lake, my home lake, largemouth bass here on Lake Fork. Man, May is the top water time on this lake, and we try to get out real early. I mean, get there before daylight, have your boat in the water to get on that good bite. We're hitting some main lake points that have the bird activity because that shad spawn is just kind of moving all over the lake right now. But you find that, you'll find some feeding fish. The large topwater lures, plopper type baits, they'll trigger some good action on some larger sized bass. But that bite, man, that only lasts about an hour, and then these bass move out on the long points and humps, and that's my favorite time. You can drag a Carolina rig plastic, you can throw a big shaky head on a heavy shaky head worm, and drop a drop shot on them to catch those bass out deep. Big deep diving crankbait, like a one to go about 20, 25 feet. That's also a good choice when you find them schooled up. Shad colored by that is the best bait. May and June, though, man, they're my favorite months on Old Fork, and we usually having some outstanding big bass catches. Bass fishing school is back in session here on Fork, and look at some of these bass we've caught recently. Got a couple of picks here, and this is the quality size these post-spawn fish show up in May.
Nice.
Hey, Rick, I just picked up my brand new Skeeter and powered by that 200 Yamaha, and be busy this week rigging it all up with that new Garmin force trolling motor. Got that electronics coming in, and we're gonna have those fire poles on. So the white bass and crappie on Fork, they don't stand a chance now, man. So hope our viewers can come out to fish with me on Fork and just see how great these products can help us catch fish. So
I'm excited
tight
for
lines, they're biting.
All right, Johnny, thank you. I'm excited for your new Skeeter. I ordered your power poles and your charge for you today, so they should be coming in the mail any day. Thank you again. Great report. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the Upper Fresh region. Johnny says, Lake Levon, the good bite on crappies and sand bass, the minnows and slabs is working best. Early shallow bite on swim baits, and then go deep with slabs. The crappie are best on jigs and the brush piles. And then Lake Fork, the big largemouth bass on the Fork, top water early. And then big crankbait, swim jigs, and shaky head worms. Use shad colors. That's going to be your best result, Bree.
See me doing my bass catching dance over here.
No,
I'm so
I
excited.
didn't. I missed it. I
See
was
all
so
those
busy.
pictures of those big bass?
I know.
I'm so excited.
Johnny catches them.
He does every week, so consistent.
Yep.
All right, the Garmin Lower Coast region is getting its feet wet next year on the Texas Insider Fishing Report, but we don't want to keep Dave waiting at the CCA workbench any longer. So Dave, new products, what we got?
I'm gonna have to try to call the pickers in to try to figure out what this thing is.
The Pickers.
Yeah.
American Pickers. I
Yeah.
love that show.
I don't think it's clean my ear out with.
Okay, well, let's find out what it really is when we come back. Okay, great. Thanks.
Nice.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a MirrOlure. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. And StarTron. Cures and prevents ethanol fuel problems.
At the pinnacle of super high output, 4-stroke outboard performance, you'll find Yamaha VMAX SHO. Yamaha's game-changing SHO technology. From exhilarating V6 models to the sleek inline 4s, there's a VMAX SHO for everything from bass to bonefish. It's an extended family of 4-strokes engineered for lightweight, inspiring performance, and rock-solid reliability. Discover VMAX SHO and elevate your expectations.
Hey, yeah!
The only reel with over 100 years of heritage. Alvi reels are manufactured using the most reliable components. Alvi's state-of-the-art drag and retrieve rates are perfect for any fishing challenge. So whether it's a side cast or spinning reel, Alvi makes a reel that best fits your needs. Alvi reels are manufactured to best practice standards and are in fact so robust that the Alvi also comes with up to a 10-year salt and sand warranty. For more information, go to alvius.com.
We're here at the workbench for the new products. I love watching that Alvi commercial because every time I see myself grabbing that pompano, I know that that was a fish that you walked away from your rod and I caught it.
Yeah, I was going to get you a sand spike so you wouldn't have to stand there and hold your rod. And then we caught the pompano on my rod.
Not.
Yeah. Well, it probably would have been that way anyway. Anyway, we're going to start with the fish hands over there. This is a new product. There's two parts to it. One is a deactivator, one is the activator. We're going to start with the activator though, because what that does is it removes, you spray that on your hands and it removes all the unnatural scents. You know, if you've been any sunscreen, especially any soaps, which, you know, things that are very repellent to fish. Bug spray, DEET is the most repellent thing to any fish. It's been proven scientifically. DEET makes a fish go crazy. They'll stay away from it. Well, and soaps too. So this stuff, you spray it on your hands and it gets rid of all the human scent and all those other things. At the same time, it's got amino acids in it and they're fish attractors. You can actually even spray that on your lures and whatnot. So in every 15 or so minutes, you can spray that on your lures, and it's an amino acid, so it's an attractant. At the other end...
You know what it smells like?
What?
It smells like
worms?
Bacon.
Oh, well, there you go. Very nice.
Yeah.
The deactivator there, it removes, after you've been fishing all day, if you want to take any of that scent off, and if you've been catching fish, it takes all the fishy scent and stuff off your hands.
Oh.
Yeah.
You know what this smells like?
No.
Smells like the stuff you rinse your mouth out with in the dentist.
Well, there you go.
It smells good.
I bet, because that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to take all the fishy smells and stuff off your hands after you've been using that activator all day.
I have a peppermint bacon sandwich now.
There you go. Fish hands, scented fish attractant.
I'm going to try it.
They come in two parts. I'm sure you will. 8-ounce bottle, 100% natural as well, by the way. This is called a safe release weight, and you know when you catch a fish in deep water, a grouper, a snapper, or something, anything over 100 feet of water, and you reel them up real quick. If it's a little fish, you know they blow up. Even if it's a big fish that you can't keep, you know maybe it's out of season or something, and now you've got this big fish up on the surface with his belly all bloated up. And normally we would vent them. They would use a venting tool, which is you poke a big tool, hollow tube, through the fish into his bladder and lets the air out. Then he can swim down. Well, instead of poking a hole in them, what you do with this little doodad is you stick it down through the grouper's mouth or straight down through his lower jaw.
Right.
Point the fish down, let him go. And this takes the fish all the way to the bottom, and you've got actually, you know, your spinning reel attached to this. And as soon as that thing hits the bottom, you jerk this up and the fish comes off and he's down there on the bottom. You get this back. He's swimming freely without having a big hole in his side. All he had was a hole in his lip. He gets those all the time. So,
I got it.
Yeah, it's a really cool little deal.
Somebody was thinking.
Safe release weight.
Good job, guys.
Save our fish.
Is that where you find it? Safe release weight?
SafeReleaseWeight.com.
Right. Okay.
Next, we got some Halco's here. You know, Halco is a big, really nice tackle company in Australia. They make everything really super tough because everything in Australia has teeth. These are used a lot to catch bait for the marlin fishermen and whatnot. The one there on the far left is the giant trembler. It's a great lipless bait. You can troll it really fast. You know, trolls from 2 to up to 12 knots and still works. Goes down about 6 feet. Weighs, I don't know, about 4.5 ounces or something. And then you got the Laser Pro there in the middle, which is a bibbed plug. Probably wouldn't want to go as fast with it, but it'll go 8 feet down, 5 to 9 knots. You know, really shiny, erratic action. They have super strong hooks, super strong ring eyes on them, so you're not going to be pulling them off, and you're not going to be straightening out those hooks. That last little joker there is a really great with the Max 130. We catch a lot of fish with it up here. It eats everything. Wahoos, everything. That thing goes really, really fast too. You can go fast with that.
How come we don't have these guys as a sponsor?
I don't know. We should get them.
Okay.
We should. Because they make great stuff.
What you got here?
Well, this is Forge. It's a thermoplastic tape. It's real cool stuff. You heat it up to 140 degrees. It has a tensile strength of 1,000 pounds. You can repair a rod and reel with it, a shovel handle, any kind of tools. It's that strong. So go to forgethermoplastictape.com, forge.com, and you can find that.
All right, Bree, one more region to go.
That was some good stuff over there. All right, last but not least, your Garmin Lower Coast Region captain has been waiting long enough and is answering the question I'm sure many of you have been wondering. So, Chad, let's hear it.
Tell you what, we always got great topics on the show, but I love wade fishing, so we're going to talk about that this week here on this one. But starting out on some quick stuff for bay fishing, Corpus Christi Bay has been holding in some really good numbers of trout with some redfish showing up around Klondike Islands and Aransas Bay and stuff. But moving to wade fishing, it's a huge part of the lower coast down here. It's a lot of people do it, have been doing it for years. People always ask me once in a while, why would you leave a perfectly good boat? We all got great boats nowadays, fortunately, and great stuff, tools with it. The answer to that one is you can cover more water by wading. And by this, I mean you can cast more in different directions. You can fan out 180 degrees and cover all that more water. Once you drift through that real quick, if you're in a boat, you might get 1 or 2 casts in where you can get 20 or 30 casts in by wade fishing. So once you find the fish, better off too, you get to stay on them. So if they're in a real tight pocket or a sand pocket or grass beds here or something like that, or on little bait balls, you can stay on them really quick, and then you don't drift over them and have to start up and go back around, or another boat might be on you right there. So wading also keeps you very, very silent and low profile in the water, of course, like that. And so if you're up on the top of a power, casting platform or something else like that, you can see better, but those fish would kind of see you also and push out farther. Main thing is when you're wade fishing, power poles are great. I run a Shallow Sport X3. I've got 2 power poles on it. Best boat I've had by far for years. And so you hit that with your remote, walking with your buddies, spread everybody out where you can cast barely to each other, say 50, 60, 70 yards apart, and put your waders out, slowly cover the ground. And then if you're on the fish, stay on them. If you're not, keep on power, keep on going through. The best thing is lift your power poles up, let the boat catch up to you, put them back down with the remote, keep on going. It's a great way to do it. So moving on to the actual fishing and reports there, talked to Doug Stanford, Pirates on Bay Charters up in Corpus. He said trout fishing has been really good in Corpus around the wellheads. He's been free lining live shrimp and also using croaker. It's available. Croaker's starting to show up. They're a little bit smaller now. They'll get bigger out through the season. But if you do get them in a good size, the bite's been real aggressive. Right now I try to start out with like a 5-aught Eagle Claw Kale hook with that on like a 20, 25 to 30 pound Mamoy shock leader on that. Just free line it. Or if you want to add a chatterweight, if you're in those deeper wells or the current picks up, then do that. Thump it a little bit, twitch it a little bit. Once that trout hits, give him a little bit of line because he's going to hit that head first and try to swallow it no matter what. And those Kale hooks, normally they're going to hook them right on the side of the lip there in the jaw, which is perfect for a good release, or if you're going to box them. So you got a good picture of a solid trout here. That was a good 28-inch trout there that Kevin caught.
Nice.
Yeah, solid heavy fish. And the fish have been real heavy. Even the 18, 20-inch fish we've been seeing, 22-inch, are real fat and healthy this year. Plenty of bait. So redfish have been good around Klondike Islands and Aransas Bay. Right now, they're hitting best on like cut menhaden, also ladyfish, also known as skipjack and stuff. And when I use this stuff, especially like the skipjack, using Eagle Claw, you can do the same thing, Kale hook, like a 5 to 7-aught. But the key is, if you cut that thing like in a 1-2-inch little cut straight down through the middle, just barely pin it through the meat and straight up where the barb shows right through the skin. I see guys all the time trying to dig it in the meat and twist it and hide it and everything else. You're going to lose your hook set that way. So just barely pin it through there. That's a good tip right through there. Throw it on a Carolina rig, let it sit on the bottom off some shelves or anything else like that. And then when the redfish hits it, bend to him, stick him, you'll get a good fight that way. Moving to offshore fishing, weather permitting and stuff like that, if you get up to the floater rigs, it's been really good. I had a couple buddies of mine to go out there in the last week, and you can hit Hoover, Boom Bang, Perdido, all that stuff like that. The yellowfin tuna are definitely there. I like getting there like 2-3 hours left before evening and try to get some trolling going. Rig some Islanders out there with some ballyhoo on it. It works great. Also throw a few cedar plugs mixed in the spread. And definitely look at your Garmin sounder on this stuff, because those bait balls, I zoom it out to normally about 600 feet, 100 fathoms, and sometimes that bait's down around 400, 500, anything else like that, which is going to be too deep. So continue trolling if it's going to be slow like that. if the bite's going, or if they're up there, of course, stay on them. But if it stays slow, wait till the bait comes up, and after dark, you can start chunking. By chunking, I mean you can have some bonita, little 1x1 chunks or blackfin chunks. Get enough chunked up in a 5-gallon bucket where you got plenty. Free, chunk a handful out, free line it, back in the chum line. A lot of guys like using, Memorial fluorocarbon leader and everything else tied to your lines. I like using the blue 50-pound on a 50 wide, whatever your favorite reel is, and use that straight to the 50 with a live bait hook. So you got less friction in the water, and use that blue color, and it'll float right through there. And I think you get better bites float with it like that. Let that tuna make a good run. Set that drag to strike. Let them take off. Let them do his little death spin and stuff like that. And of course, yellowfin's a great fight, and even better table fare and stuff like that. So I've got a buddy of mine, James Dunk, sent me this picture of his last trip out there last week with some good yellowfin, 40 to 70 pounds.
Wow. Nice day, bub. All right, we're gonna take a look at the shallow sport boats hotspot from the lower coast region. He says inshore, head to Corpus Christi Bay for good trout action around the wellheads. Then fish for redfish in Aransas Bay or around Klondike Island. And then offshore, kingfish are close and the tuna are out deeper at the floaters.
Oh, that tuna, that was just such a tease right there. You see all those lined up.
Making me hungry.
Oh, I want some sushi.
Hungry. Sushi in your mouth.
Of course. That's, where it goes. Anyways, this was a great show, guys.
Yes.
Rick, will we find you waiting this weekend?
No,
he does not wait.
I have a little saying, if I can't see my feet, I'm gonna take a seat.
Or if you have a perfectly good boat, why jump out of it? Thanks for joining us, guys. It's been a great show. Send us all your catches. Have a fun weekend.
Bye.
Adios.